Hey guys, Caleb here with Steve Meyer's Service today to go over the first of a 5-part series that we're coming out with to show you how to properly service your Toro Timecutter. So first off today we're going over part 1, which is how to service your engine. So in front of me I have our tools and our materials laid out for what we'll need in order to do the job. So first off we have our drain pan, that way we have something to drain the oil into. Then we have our adjustable wrenches, that way we can take the oil drain plug out. Next we have a ratchet with a spark plug socket on there, that way we can change out our spark plugs. Then we have our pliers so that we can change out our fuel filter. Have our air filter, our fuel filter, our oil filter wrench, a Sharpie so that we can mark on our oil filter when we change the oil. You don't have to, but I just find that good practice, that way you don't ever lose track of your service intervals. Also have our oil. This engine is going to take 2 quarts. Some engines may vary, but I would suggest to go based on what your owner's manual says. Then we have our spark plug gapping tool, 2 spark plugs, and then 2 rags. That way we can try and keep everything nice and clean. Alright, so first off what we're going to do is change the oil. So in order to do that, we're going to come over here and we're going to remove this plug right here and let it drain into the pan. Now on all the stuff that we're going to do today, I'm not going to bore you with me actually taking the time to do it. I'm going to put that in a time lapse, so I'm going to set you down here real quick, show you the time lapse of taking the plug out, and then we'll be on to step number 2, which we're going to take a look at the air filter. Alright, now that we have our drain plug out and the oil's draining, next thing we're going to do is change out the air filter. Now this one's going to be a quick and easy step, so we won't need to do a time lapse for this. So we're going to grab our air filter here. We're going to come over and undo the tabs on our air filter cover. Take that off. Take our air filter out. Go ahead and put the new one in. Make sure it seats on there nice and properly. And then put that cover back on. And we're good. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is change out your spark plugs. So on this engine, which is a Kohler 7000 series, it is a twin cylinder, which means we have 2 spark plugs. So the first thing we need to do is locate where the spark plugs are. On this engine, we have 1 spark plug here. We also have 1 right over here. So we're going to take our spark plugs here, and now we have our gapping tool as well. We want to make sure that these are set to 25 to 30 thousandths. That's the gap that we want to have these spark plugs at. And so just like on the oil, I'm going to set you guys down. We're going to do a little time lapse of me changing these out, and then we'll be back for step 4. Alright, so now that we got our spark plugs changed out, the next thing we're going to do is change our oil. So we're going to need obviously our oil filter, our 2 quarts of oil, and then we're also going to need our oil filter wrench. So our oil filter on this mower is located right here. And so one of the things that we're going to do in order to limit the mess that we make is we're going to take a rag here and we're going to place that right under the oil filter. That way it catches the oil that comes out of the oil filter. It doesn't leak onto the frame, get down onto the transmissions, all that kind of stuff. Maybe make us think that there's a leak somewhere that there's really not. So again, I'm going to set you down, I'm going to change it out, and I'll be right back. Alright, now that we got that old oil filter taken off and the new one installed, we are ready to go ahead and put oil into the engine. On this Kohler engine, we do suggest putting 10W30, and this one's going to take 2 quarts. However, we also suggest to check your owner's manual, because some engine brands may vary on what kind and the capacity. But first, before we can put the oil back in, we need to make sure that we install our drain plug. So, I'm going to come over here, make sure you got your drain plug pack installed from when we first took it out. Once that's installed, then we can go ahead and fill our engine up with 2 quarts of oil. Alright, now that we got our 2 quarts of oil in the engine, you always want to make sure to test run the engine, because that oil filter is going to soak up some oil. And then you can always just, recheck your level. It might go down just a little bit due to the capacity that that oil filter is going to have. So the final step in our engine service is going to be the fuel filter. And that on this Kohler engine is located right here. So one thing you do want to keep in mind is that this fuel filter and all fuel filters are directional. So you want to make sure that arrow is pointing in the direction of the fuel flow from the gas tank that goes directly to the engine, just like it is here. So what we're going to need is our new fuel filter and our pair of pliers. That way we can remove the clamps and change it out. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright guys, after that final step, that is going to bring our engine service video to a wrap. So now our engine is fully serviced, and we are going to be ready to move on to video number 2, where we're going to show you how to service your deck. So stay tuned for that. Like and subscribe. Let us know if you have any questions.